Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookish Realm. Welcome back to another video. So today I am here. I don't know why my voice sounds so deep. Anyway, today I am here to do a reaction video, as you can see from the description of, or the title of the video. And I am going to be looking at the 116 essential new books to read for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, as recommended by Goodreads. Now, I have not taken a look at this list. This list has been published since May 1st, but it's been constantly coming up whenever I go to, I guess, update books and stuff like this. I keep getting notified that this is a list that Goodreads has compiled. I have done a reaction to the list previously, and that was the Black History Month list. Now, I am also going to add some recommendations of my own, because in my soul, if it's anything like what I saw with the Black History Month recommendations, this list is not going to include any type of kidlit or graphic novels. And so just preemptively, I went ahead and decided that I would come up with some recommendations, because I know that some of you who watch my channel do look for recommendations because you yourself are readers of kidlit, or you have people in your life who read kidlit, or you're looking for recommendations for the kiddos in your life. So I thought I would do that. As always, I know nothing about this list. I'm going in completely unaware. I can see a little bit based off of the image that they use for the cover, say the introduction of it. But other than that, I know absolutely nothing. So we are going to go ahead. If I could always have issues pulling this up, but we're gonna go ahead and record what we have here. Okay, so scrolling through, this was done by Sharon, who must be someone who works for Goodreads, clearly. So this was the image that I saw. This top image just kind of gave me an idea of what they included. Okay, so they did include All My Rage by Sabati here, which I was not expecting them to include any young adult stuff. So I added a couple of young adult recommendations, because I know with the Black History Month, they did have young adult for Black History Month. They just didn't have any middle grade children's picture books, stuff like that, no graphic novels. Okay, so never mind, ignore me, but I still have some additional YA recommendations to give y'all. All right, so we have a little blurb here that just talks about in the U.S., May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I wish they would have put a little bit more emphasis too on it being talking about Native Hawaiian literature as well. But it says here, given the size of the API diaspora across the globe, this is not a comprehensive list, which they always do a good job of saying, this is not a comprehensive list, at all. But some of the genres that they included were historical fiction, nonfiction, mysteries, romance, horror, short stories, etc. They said that some of the stories were hard to categorize, but they did their best. So they also talked a little bit, some books that they wanted to highlight, but we're going to go through and look at each genre. So first we have historical fiction, and we're also looking at things that I've read, things that I'm not as familiar with. And out of this first list, as you can see, I've read Pachinko by Min Lee. This is one of those family saga generational tales that I enjoy. It's been a while since I've read Pachinko, but when I read it, I loved it. I do want to read The Thousand Crimes of Ming Su. Hopefully I am saying that correctly. It is a different take on the Western novel, so I'm interested in that. I've heard of The Sympathizer. I am not familiar with How Much of These Hills is Gold. This is my first time seeing that one. Scrolling down, America is Not the Heart, The Covenant of Water. I'm on hold for that. That's a very, very long book. I think the audiobook for that one is 30 something hours, but I've heard really, really great things about it. I've heard really, really good things about the henna artist, and the first and the last one are two titles that I'm not as familiar with. I am familiar with all 4 of these titles in this row and have all 4 of them on my TBR and have not read any of the 4 of them. I had Hula checked out for a very, very long time and never made it to it. I currently have The House of Doors marked on my TBR for audiobooks that I want to get to. I'm interested in like how many years they went back, because The Night Tiger's 2019 and then we go all the way up to 2023. So I don't know if they, I'm gonna scroll back up really quick, y'all. In this quick blurb, I didn't see what the, like if they had a time like range that they use, or year range. I know they did with the Black History Month one, but they don't seem to have one for this, so that's interesting. Okay. Contemporary fiction, Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I read that book and watched the show adaptation, which they're like, in my opinion, I feel like they're night and day. I don't know, I can't say like I enjoyed one more than the other because I feel like they were kind of their own type of situation. Yellowface, one of my favorite books of last year, and a super duper like polarizing book, but one of my most liked reviews on Goodreads to date is Yellowface. I get an update that someone has liked that review almost every single day, and it's the comments, it's just I don't even look at it anymore because it's just so much. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is one that I have heard of. I feel like I've heard of The Book of Form and Emptiness, but I'm not, the cover looks familiar, but I couldn't tell you in a million years what that one is about. A Little Life is one that, sheesh, like, everybody has been reading that book, and I don't know if it's one that I will ever pick up. These other 3 titles are titles that I've heard of Interior Chinatown, but Honor and a Place for Us, those are 2 titles that I'm not as familiar with. The Leavers, familiar with. Goodbye Vitamin, familiar with. But these other 2, Disorientation as well as The Swimmers, is not one that I'm as familiar with. Okay, stepping into romance. The Kiss Quotient, as you can see, is one that I've been meaning to read for a very, very long time, and I haven't done it, by Helen Huang. I've read Alicia Rai before, but not Girl Gone Viral. Anna Huang, everybody's reading Anna Huang. Book Talk has completely blown her entire, like, backlist up. So not surprised to see her here. I've also read Courtney Milan, but this is not the book that I read by her. I can't remember the one that I read by her, but it was not that specific title, but I have read Courtney Milan before. Let's see here. Oh yes, Red Blossom in Snow. I have heard of that author before. Dating Dr. Dill is a book that I own, but I've heard such mixed reviews on that one, although it's still rated pretty highly. And these 2 I'm not familiar with. All the Right Notes and Role Playing. Those are 2 I'm not familiar with at all. Scroll down a little bit. Okay, so not familiar with Big Bad Wolf. The Hurricane Wars. Romantasy. Fantasy romance. It's my preference for the term. I started reading that one before it actually was releasing last year, and I couldn't get into it. I put it aside, and because I got an early listening copy of it, and I wasn't a huge fan. I put it off to the side. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to it, y'all. I don't know. Aisha at Last. I believe that this is a Jane Austen retelling, but I can't remember which one. And then Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors by Sonali Dev is, I'm familiar with her as an author. I can't remember if I've read anything by her though, but I know that that one is also an Austen retelling. All right, shifting down into fantasy and science fiction. Let's see here. The Grace of Kings. I have that sitting on my shelf right now. Intimidated is not the word, but I've heard a lot of good things, and I like military and political fantasies. I found that out by reading Jade City, that was kind of my jam. That was like the subgenre of fantasy that I am really, really into. And so that, the aspect of the Grace of Kings, like the military aspect of it, is what I think I would enjoy. Daughter of the Moon Goddess, love that. That book has great crossover appeal for those who are looking for something in between like young adult and adult. Daughter of the Moon Goddess is great for that. I've seen The Spirit Cuts Through Water and Severance, but I clearly have not read either one of those. Babel by R.F. Kuang. Well, not surprised that she's on there twice, but this using authors twice. It always bothers me because I feel like it's a good opportunity to showcase somebody else in a different genre. And that could be a professional thing for me because I make book lists for my job, and whenever I make book lists, I do not include the same author multiple times. The only instance in where that would happen is if it is a short story collection and the editor is a double on a list. But other than that, I never truly understand the purpose of using duplicates of authors. No matter how great they may be, I always think it's an opportunity to showcase a completely different author. Let's see, I own 3 out of the 4 of these books, so I'm not gonna butcher because I always have trouble saying the title of this book. I own that one, Babel, She Who Became the Sun. I've never read Kazu Ishiguro. I've heard good things, bad things. I've heard mixed things about Clara and the Sun. A lot of mixed things about that. I've heard great things about the other 3 though. Okay, let's see here. These next 4, only one I'm familiar with is Light from Uncommon Stars. That's it. These other 3 I've never heard of. The Saint of Bright Doors, The School for Good Mothers, and The Deep Sky. Also remembering that, you know, science fiction and fantasy is not my strongest area. I'm always weak, especially when it comes to adult sci-fi fantasy. It's always my weakest area. Interesting here. Okay, Jade City's on here. Good. I literally just talked about that one. Monstrous. Great comic book. I have 2 of the volumes sitting over here. The Bone Shard Daughter is one that I am interested in picking up, and I believe I own a copy of The Jasmine Throne, but I've heard a lot of good things about Tasha Suri. Mystery and Thriller. I have heard of 3 of these titles, the first 3. I have never seen The Leftover Woman, but I have read Jessie Q Satanto before. I believe YA is where I got my first taste. Miracle Creek had been on my TBR for a while, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. Same thing with the Widows of Malabar Hill. Let's see here. Everybody's super familiar with Arsenic and Adobo. I've never heard of Your House Will Pay or Clark and Division. Those are 2 I'm not familiar with. Now, I have seen Sherry Thomas's books before. I believe they're like a play on Sherlock Holmes, but I've never picked one up. But I am interested, and I have seen her stuff before. And I still do want to read Arsenic and Adobo. Alright, scrolling down. The Things We Do in the Dark. I know, and I'm going backwards because this probably doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't make good. I'm going from right to left. I feel like I own a copy of that book. I really do. I feel like I own a copy of that book. The Cartographers. This is one I've never heard of. IQ, nor of A Disappearance in Fiji. another group that I'm not strong in. I actually started listening to Chlorine, which is it's a heavy book. But I got recommended it by a coworker who read it twice in 1 week. So that is one that I will be going back to. These other three I'm not familiar with. The Salt Grows Heavy, Natural Beauty, or The Center. Island Witch is one that I currently have checked out. Once again, I'm hopping all over the place because I don't want to make any sense whatsoever. But Island Witch is one that I do have currently checked out that I plan on getting to. And these other three I'm not familiar with. Cursed Bunny, The Devourers, The Fever. I'm not familiar with any of those. Alright, young adult. I own Last Night at the Telegraph Club and These Violent Delights. I just have not read either one of those. Clearly I've read The Wrath of the Dawn, To All the Boys I Loved Before. Going back and reading To All the Boys I Loved Before is a very interesting experience because I feel like after seeing the films, you realize how they were aged up for the Netflix adaptations. And in the books, they read much younger, which is good because I feel like it helps with that gap, that you know, younger YA gap. Of course the characters age up, and then it would age up in terms of like who would connect with that content the most. The Wrath and the Dawn, I read the first book. I still haven't finished the duology. I'm ashamed to say that. I own a copy of We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. I have not read All My Rage by Sabatier. I have read Sabatier before. The Downstairs Girl was pretty popular, I think, because it was a book club pick, but I can't remember for who. I think it was a Reese book club pick at one point. And then The Red Palace by Junher, who just released a new book this past week, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, they included Dragon Fruit 2024 release. That's good. Forget Me Not, I have seen. Not sure if I'm interested in reading that one. Dragon Fruit, I'm on hold right now to read. Almost American Girl is actually one of my recommendations because I didn't think that they were going to include any like graphic novels, and so I always recommend Almost American Girl. It's such a great graphic novel. Memoir about Robin Hood's experience and moving from Korea to, of all places, Alabama, and like the immediate disconnect that happens there. Honey and Ushu's Guide to Fake Dating. I've heard really good things about that one. I just never picked it up. Oh, they included a lot of graphic novels. I am proud of them this time. Displacement is another graphic novel. The Magic Fish. I love The Magic Fish, y'all. I love it. It is such a great graphic novel about a young boy who is trying to explain his queer identity to his mother, but in Vietnamese, I believe he's Vietnamese, there is no direct translation. And so he does it through storytelling, and the ending is the most charming and beautiful thing in the entire world. This Book Won't Burn. Glad they included that one. That book literally just released this past week as well. It is a book that tackles themes related to book banning and book challenging. So that one is definitely on my TBR. Okay, switching to nonfiction, of course, Crying in H Mart. A lot of people pick that one up. These other three I'm not as familiar with. Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls. I'm not familiar with that one. Good Talk I Am. Not What Trick Mirror or All You Can Ever Know. Slacking on my nonfiction reading here. Know My Name, I started reading by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller also released a middle grade book this year that came out a couple of weeks ago. That was tough. That one was really tough, and I think a lot of that came from my own experiences. And so at the time that I started reading Know My Name, I could not handle it, and so I backed off of it. But it is something that I do want to revisit. What My Bones Know and Night Parade are two that I'm also not familiar with. Year of the Tiger is one that I've seen before. So is Beautiful Country. I think I own a copy of that one. When Breath Becomes Air is devastatingly tragic. And when I found out how heartbreaking that book was, I couldn't bring myself to pick it up. I'm sorry. Somebody kind of spoiled that for me, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm cut out for that one. And then we have The Making of Asian America. The Song of the Cell, Dear Girls, How to Do Nothing, and How to Read Now. I've seen Dear Girls as well as How to Do Nothing. The other two I'm not as familiar with. Shifting down to short stories, which I am not an avid short story reader, so I probably will have nothing read in this category. Every Drop is a Man's Nightmare, How to Pronounce Knife, Gods of Want, and How Stories. I've never seen any of those four. Same with these last four: Wednesday's Child, After Parties, Kinship, and What We Fed to the Manticore. I want to get into more short stories. The issue though with short stories is that, or what I struggle with, because I don't want to say it's an issue, it's what I struggle with, is that it could be such a mixed bag. Even if it is one singular author and not multiple authors doing like a short story anthology, it can be such a mixed bag that I've gotten some bad experiences with short stories, and so now I'm always like hesitant to be like, I don't know. But it's interesting because I do fine with essays, like a collection of essays, but not short stories. I don't know. It's a brain thing. It's the way that my brain works. Okay. Well, that is it, y'all. That's that list. I'm gonna quickly go through some recommendations that I have, which I'm happy to see that they included like some graphic novels in this. That was nice to see them include graphic novels. But I've only read a handful of things on this list, but this is not all the stuff that I've ever read. It's just out of their comprehensive list. This is what I've read. Okay, y'all. Here's the part where I give you my recommendations. I think I have a decent list of things here and just a variety of things. I'm not going to go into deep detail or give you deep descriptions of any of these, because this video already is going to be over 20 minutes and I don't want to make it like a extensive long. But here are some things that I think you should check out. I divided mine by a couple of categories. So the first one we're going to do is picture books, and the first one that I have is Aloha Everything. This is one that I had recently featured on my Instagram, and it is a love letter to the history and culture of Hawaii, and the illustrations in this one are absolutely beautiful. So if you're looking for something like that in terms of Native Hawaiian representation, that's a good picture book. Then we have All Samosas. This is a really cute picture book about a little girl who wants to make samosas, and she wants to make pea and potato samosas, but she can't remember the recipe, and they don't live together. Her grandmother lives overseas, and so there's a time difference. So her dad's pretty much like, oh, we just gotta make stuff, you know, samosas with whatever we have in the house. And I think that one was really interesting. The Mochi Makers, which is not only about like making mochi and the time and the practice behind making mochi, but also it's like this love letter to intergenerational relationships, because it's a grandmother and granddaughter making the mochi together. All right, so the next one that I have is Karubu, a silly South Indian folktale, and it's literally about a little boy who's supposed to take this karubu to share it with someone else, and when he's taking it from his house to this other house, he keeps getting distracted by other things, other people, and he forgets what it's called. So as he's going along, he's making up the names of this dish, renaming it, remixing it. It's a really funny picture book, and it's a great read aloud if you have little ones that you're still reading to at night. And even if you're like a librarian or an educator and you're looking for a good story time pick, this is one that I think you'll have kids they'll really enjoy it. The next one that I have is Hair Oil Magic, and this one is about a little girl whose mom puts oil in her hair, massages it into her hair, and it gives her this like warm, magical, fuzzy feelings. And then one day she tries to mix the oils together herself and gets it completely wrong. And so this is kind of like, not only shows a cultural practice that exists in a lot of South Asian communities, but also like this once again, another intergenerational, which I love intergenerational picture books, but this one specifically looks at the intergenerational relationships between a daughter, her mother, and her grandmother in this practice, which you can kind of see on the cover. The last one that I have, because I just wanted to include this one because I believe that it's just an absolutely gorgeous book. I Lived Inside a Whale is one of the most beautifully illustrated picture books that I've read this year so far. It focuses on a little girl who likes quietness. She likes to play by herself. She likes to read and enjoy things in silence, and a lot of people don't understand that. And so there's a little boy who she meets that begins to understand how she likes to play and how sometimes she likes her moments of silence. It's just really great for those of us who don't like a lot of noise or go into sensory overload when there's too much going on. I, as an adult, really enjoyed this, but the artwork in this one was absolutely exquisite. Alright, so we're going to shift into a couple of middle grade recommendations. Like I said, trying to go really fast. The next one here, I have Drawing Adina. This is a contemporary book about a little girl that loves art. Her parents don't think she should make a career of it. This one has great mental health representation. It's a great book about finding your voice and standing up for what you believe in and your passions. And I always recommend this one for people who have kids that are like, you know, into the arts, and people always like to say things about being into the arts, and so that's always a great recommendation. I also have Ruby Lost and Found. This was one of my favorite books of last year, and it actually won the Asian American Pacific Islander Award through ALA this year in January. And it is about a little girl who is having some issues at home because of her grandfather's passing, and so they decide that she should go stay with her grandmother during the summer. And when she is there, she learns a lot about grief in herself, and also how her grandmother is grieving the loss of her husband. Her grandmother also has some other issues going on that she ends up figuring out that put her and her grandmother in a lot of danger. And it's not one of those books that has a perfect ending, which I think is okay because it's a very realistic ending. But this was beautifully written, beautifully done, and I really enjoyed it. I also have Momo Arashima Seals the Sword of the Wind. This one is based on Japanese mythology. So if you have any reader, or you yourself, if you like anything that is a part of like the Rick Riordan Presents line, this is one that I often recommend like as a read-alike. And it's a long one, I must say. This one is a longer one, but the adventure is really interesting. She doesn't understand her connection to the gods and goddesses and how that works in the grander scheme of her life. It's about friendship. It gets dark at sometimes, but it is well written, and the second book to this one just recently came out. And then I wanted to just say anything by Kelly Yang, like literally anything by Kelly Yang. She has a pretty large backlist of middle grade books. She has the Front Desk series, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. There's like 5 books in that series. And then she has one middle grade standalone and one that recently just got a sequel. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She has at least 8 middle grade books. She's done picture books, and she also has 2 young adult books. One of them I have read and one that I will recommend in a second. And the last one I'm going to include is because it's one that I always seem to gravitate back towards. It being middle grade, it's written in verse, it's historical fiction in ways, and it deals with some pretty interesting and heavy topics related to identity and familial relationships, and that's Red, White, and Whole. This one I believe is a Newbery Honor book. I'm like 99% sure it's a Newbery Honor and not a Newbery winner, but it focuses on a main character that is struggling with not feeling American enough, not feeling Indian enough, caught in between. It's the 1980s. Her and her mother are entering that phase of like having a pretty rocky relationship, but her mother gets sick. And that's where the novel kind of like takes a turn and it gets really, really heavy. Beautifully done. Had me like in tears by the end of it, but it is one that I really did enjoy. Stepping a little bit into YA. Last year I read Chloe and the Cashcow Boys, and it was absolutely marvelous. We have a main character that is essentially having to date 3 guys. Her dad really, really wants her to stay at home and not travel abroad to the United States to go to school, and so he sets this whole thing up in order to keep her at home. But it's about her finding her own path and finding herself and learning to become more independent and still trying to maintain that relationship with her dad. I thought this one was almost a 5-star book for me, but there's some like pop culture references that just got on my nerves a little bit. But it was very, very well written, funny in some parts, very realistic, and something that I can see like a lot of teens and also parents like kind of relating to, that your young one is kind of flocking the nest. Now what? Like, what do you do after that? Like, I raised this kid for 18 years and now I have to give them up. They just kind of leave and that's it. Like, so that one was really good. I also read Gorgeous Gruesome Faces last year. That's a young adult horror. So if you are into horror, I would recommend that one. This is a look at beauty standards, especially like in the K-pop industry. It is gruesome. The title does it justice. There is some body horror in this that made me kind of like, made my skin crawl. The description, just even thinking about it, made my skin crawl. But overall, if you're looking at horror, if you're looking for a horror selection, but one that also does a little bit of social commentary, I think you would enjoy Gorgeous Gruesome Faces. Then another one that was good on the social commentary, Into the Sunken City. This is one that I read this year. This is a climate sci-fi dystopian type of book where they tried to fix climate issues, and then by inserting these devices into the clouds, and they did it wrong, and it made it rain continuously, and it just wouldn't stop raining, and to the point that the entire globe becomes flooded. And so our main character is expected to go on this dive because they need the money, and go Las Vegas, and because Las Vegas is completely underwater, to dive to collect this treasure. So it definitely has a treasure island vibe to it. There are pirates. I don't think the romance aspect of this was really needed, but I think that the descriptions of the main character's relationship with her sister were done really, really well, and I like the concept of the world. I don't know if this is a standalone, if it's going to be a sequel. It could go for having a sequel because the world alone was fascinating, like the development of these new and strange creatures, because of the fact that now the world is primarily covered. I mean, we are primarily covered in water now, but I mean to the point where humans have to figure out how to live above the water because everything is... it's wild. It was wild. And the last one that I have for YA is Made in Korea. I really like this one. The author came out with a sci-fi book last year that I had not gotten a chance to read, but it's one that I do want to pick up soon. Made in Korea it's cute. It is all about like Korean, I don't want to say Korean beauty standards, but like how do I say this? Like Korean beauty products. That's what I should say. And she's rivaling with this guy, and because they have to create kind of like a business, and it's part of their schooling, and they're doing like these Korean beauty products, and it was cute. It was well done. The interaction between the two main characters is absolutely adorable, and it created a new fan for this author out of me for this author. For the graphic novels, a couple that I just want to mention very quickly. Family Style. Y'all know I typically don't talk about graphic novels on this channel because I talk about it on my graphic novel channel, but I wanted to mention Family Style, which is about the author's experience coming from Vietnam, fleeing Vietnam and coming to the United States, and that transition and how difficult that was for him, and how he felt like at one point he lost his connection to his Vietnamese background. It was very, very well done. I think there were some pacing issues, but in terms of the art and what the author was attempting to do with that one, I enjoyed that. I read that for my Goodreads vlog that I did on the comic channel last year. Hungry Ghost. This one was a difficult one because it is one that tackles eating disorders, and it does it in a very thoughtful and meaningful way because it is the experience of the creator, but it is heavy. And so if that is going to be a content thing for you, that is going to trigger you, I would not go into that one, or I would not take that one lightly, because I felt like I knew based on the description. I often go into things without reading descriptions. It's just a habit of mine, but I don't even think the description kind of does it justice. But it is very, very well done with beautiful artwork. Messy Roots is one that I often recommend all the time. Gal does such a wonderful job with this book. It's about their experience with how the tides changed during the pandemic and people's view of the Asian community during the pandemic. And it was devastating, but also done in a really great, accessible way that is perfect for a young adult audience. So I would even classify, to be honest with you, I would classify Hungry Ghost and Messy Roots more as young adult graphic novels, but definitely I think adults should pick them up as well. They Called Us Enemy. Y'all know I can never do any type of recommendations about Asian authors and not including They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. This one is one of the best graphic novels that I've read of all time. Of course, it's about his experience living in Japanese internment camps with his parents. It's often a piece of U.S. history that's not taught in secondary schools. It is a piece of history that, of course, United States is ashamed to discuss, but one that we need to continue to talk about. I read the expanded edition, and I think George does a great job in connecting how if we don't recognize the mistakes that we have made in the past, we will continue to make those mistakes in the future. And he connects his experience in the internment camps with the camps that they have created for immigrants, where they keep them in cages. So he does a great job like building those connections. And then The Best We Could Do, Bree introduced this one to me, and oh my goodness gracious, it's such an emotional book because of the family dynamics in this one, especially with the creator's relationship with her parents, and how she was very fearful of how that would impact her ability to raise her child. It's definitely something that rings true to me right now because of everything that I've been experiencing, but it was something that I thought about heavy in the past, but it is playing a huge role in my life right now. But that one is very, very well done, very, very emotional. A handful of middle grade ones. Viewfinder is one that just recently released. This is a sci-fi wordless graphic novel. Main character travels to Earth and does not find any human life, but something cataclysmic has happened. There's some type of growth that's occurred, and so you don't know whether this this unnamed character is going to have the possibility of encountering any human life. It was beautifully illustrated, and I really, really love wordless graphic novels because it leaves the door open for so many different interpretations. There's no words guiding you there to tell you exactly what's going on, and so you make inferences from the pictures, and everyone is going to perceive those pictures differently. So reading the reviews on that, it's relatively interesting to see what people come up with when they've read that one. A first time for everything. I think that this one was this one National Book Award? Was a National Book Award finalist? This one has an award attached to it too, but the first time for everything. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. 5-star read for me. I absolutely adore this book. It is about, based I think loosely on Dan's own experience, like growing up in a household where you've never left home and you get the opportunity to travel abroad for the first time. And it's where you experience so many different firsts. First time leaving a home, first time seeing a different part of the world, first time, you know, having to venture out on your own, first time having to engage and speak in different languages, first time experiencing a crush. Like, it was just, it's such a beautiful coming of age story. I need to reread it because I love, love, love this book so very much. But yes, if you have never read that one, I need you to pick it up. Parachute Kids, this one also won an Asian American Pacific Islander Award from ALA this past January, and so well done. Same concept as Kelly Yang's Parachute Kids in the sense that they're talking about the same topic, but this one is for a younger audience. 3 siblings come to the States because they're on vacation. And then their parents tell them, hey, by the way, we're leaving you here and we are not coming back because of visa things. And so they leave them there, the 3 kids, in order to go to school. And it's absolute chaos. It's a lot. There's a lot tied into that, but it's well done. I've just recently found out that we're going to get a sequel to that, I believe, in 2025. And the last one that I want to recommend for like a middle grade audience, Shakti. This is a interesting middle grade graphic novel based off of Hindu mythology. Really enjoyed the artwork in this one. Beautifully done. We have a main character who's kind of struggling with how to balance like her emotions, and ends up at a school where there's 3 girls who call themselves Heck, which is the first initial of their names. They practice witchcraft, and they've put a spell on the entire school, and so it's up to the main character to kind of break that. The artwork was just so good. There's queer rep in this one. Like, it's good. It's not the best middle grade graphic novel that I read, but it was nice to see a middle grade graphic novel with mythology based within like a South Asian family. I really appreciated that. Alright, y'all, so that was my reaction to the Goodreads Choice Awards. Oh, don't worry, that'll be coming later on this year. But that was my my reaction to their recommendations for AAPI Heritage Month. Came a little bit more prepared this time because now I kind of have a feeling of what categories they don't touch anymore, because they just don't feel like those categories are as important, which is complete BS, but whatever. Let me know if you read any of the titles that were in their recommendation list down below, or if you've read any of the titles that I recommended, and if you would pick up any of my recommendations. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel or follow me on social media, all those links will be down in the description box below, and I will be back with another video soon. Like a blazing flare.